Hey, you guys, welcome back to the Legacymakers podcast. We're so excited you're here during our Showing Up series. We're doing a series about showing up in your marriage, showing up in your family, showing up in your home. And today we wanted to talk about a little bit of a different topic. We wanted to talk about what it looks like to show up in the presence of shame.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Shame.
We don't talk about shame a lot,
Dun, dun, dun.
but it's important we talk about shame because it's important we become families, marriages that don't stand for shame, right? We want to be a people that don't allow shame to come in. I think it's one of the primary tools that the enemy uses to keep us from being our authentic, real selves. Shame kind of gets in between relationships. It gets in between you and God, and it tries to take you out. It tries to force you to isolate and withdraw. So I wanted to take just a minute to actually unpack what shame is, kind of demystify it, put language to it so that you in your home and in your family and on your own can start to identify when shame comes in. Yeah. So that when you identify it, you know how to show up for it. Yeah. Right? Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, so shame is this, Brené Brown, I don't know if you've heard of her. She's this phenomenal researcher, social scientist. She's done a ton of research on shame, vulnerability, like living wholeheartedly. So if this episode, it intrigues you, it impacts you in any way, turn to Brené Brown. She's way better at teaching this than any of us. But she says that shame is that it's identity based. Okay, so shame says you are bad. Shame doesn't say you did something bad, you made a bad choice. Shame says you yourself are bad. You are less than. You are not worthy. And shame grows in a couple of different places. It grows in silence, it grows in secrets, and then it also grows in judgment. So it can be judgment of self or judgment you've received from a spouse or from a mother or a father or a sibling. Those are kind of the three places where shame primarily grows in. And the best way to combat it, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but the best way to combat shame is to talk about it, to connect, to say, nope, I'm not going to allow shame to keep me quiet or keep me isolated, but I'm going to allow my desire to live wholeheartedly to push me into relationship with people. Get it in the light. Yes, to put things in the light. Shame cannot live where empathy lives. This is kind of crazy. So shame...
That's powerful.
Shame tells you, you are bad, you are not good. And then empathy tells you, I see you, I hear you, I understand you, I connect with you, right? And so there's this, there's just this powerful tool we have called empathy to bring us out of shame. So I want to just talk a little bit about our experiences with shame, how we call it out when we see it, and how to prevent our homes from having shame in them. Does that sound good? All right, Aaron, tell me a little bit about moments you've experienced shame, where you've felt it, maybe things that have led you to feel that, and kind of how you catch, oh my gosh, shame is here.
Right. Yeah. So I can think of two instances. One, when maybe you've asked me to handle something for the family, and I've let us down. Maybe I dropped the ball, I forgot about it, you followed up, and I thought, oh no, I am so sorry, I missed it, and I feel shame because of that. Like, I'm supposed to be nailing this stuff. And then another one recently, because I'm full-time with the kids right now, I've made a poor parenting decision. Maybe I've raised my voice at the kids, which I do not like doing. I felt triggered, and I said something I shouldn't have, and I instantly feel shame. I judge myself. And for me, that looks like I get silent, I get quiet, and I maybe turn, this is a big one for me, I turn a little irritable, like I'm upset at myself, so now I'm showing you that I'm upset at you somehow, right? even though it doesn't have anything to do with you. It has everything to do with me.
Right.
And or I'm naturally an introverted type person, so I'll isolate myself some more.
Yeah.
Before I made some changes with my phone, where I've made it a dumb phone instead of a smartphone, I would go to my phone and I would doom scroll. You know,
numb out.
Numb out. Like I'm internal right now. I'm thinking about how upset I am at myself, and shame's taken over, and it's now led me somewhere, which is very interesting. It's led me somewhere else I don't want to be, and I'm not intentional. I'm no longer present, and so those are some big ones for me. Those are major indicators. Yeah.
What was the could you be more specific on like what exactly happened? I'm just curious for the sake of releasing shame. What was going on when that happened?
Releasing?
Well, like when you're saying,
how did you yell at the children?
Yeah, like
you want the specifics.
Yes.
You want the details.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Hey, it's okay.
We have a lot
We
of
see
details.
you, bro.
Oh yeah.
We see you.
Yeah.
We fail quite often, guys.
Yeah. So one with the kids is, maybe the kids didn't sleep well, and it's a loud house. Grant and Jade aren't getting along very well. They're
Jade's
going back.
screaming,
They're
Grant's
going back and forth, and
Yeah.
I'm doing the best I can to be patient and calm and diffuse situations. And then I'm telling my son, "Can you do this for me? Do this for me? Can you do this for me?" And he's 4 years old, so he's all over the place, and he hasn't done it. And I've asked about a dozen times, and it's finally like, "Get this done for me!"
No.
And they both just stop, and they're like, "Whoa, did you see that? That exploded."
Oh yeah.
And Grant's really into volcanoes right now. He's like, "Dad, that was like a volcano."
Yeah, we've been talking about
that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't mimic that.
We'll talk about that later, how to clean up your mess.
That hurt. So we'll talk about that later. There's a repair moment happening there. But then the shame sets in, right?
Yes.
It's like, man, I just I've tried so hard all day. It's probably one of the problems is I'm trying and I'm not letting him work through me. But that's another topic for another time.
Well, so actually that brings my next question is like, how have you kind of dealt with that inner critic or inner shame?
Yeah.
Since that instance, how have you worked on that or worked through that?
That's Natalie comes home, and that's after I've repaired with the kids.
Nice.
So that's probably step number one.
Okay.
and step number two and three is, Natalie comes home, and like Natalie said, I get it into the light. And this doesn't always happen. I'm not perfect, right? Like Natalie will pick up on it. She knows my indicators. We've been married for 11 years. Hey, honey, what's going on? I haven't heard from you since I've been home.
You seem internal.
Yeah, I was like,
you seem critical.
I blew up today, hon, and I'm still wearing it. Like, well, tell me about that. So we just get it out into the light. There's no secrets, right? We divulge it. And it's, okay, yeah. She says things like, "I hear you, I see you, I've been there."
That's hard.
Have you talked to Grant? Have you talked to Jade? Yes. I made the repairs. I told him I was sorry about 1,000 times. Have you forgiven yourself? Have you sat with the Lord? No, I have not done that. So she's really good at saying, "Hey, why don't you go spend a few minutes with him? Is that okay? I can do that." You need to do that.
Yeah.
So in the same way I let Grant sit with me and I apologized and I said sorry, and I go sit in his lap.
Yeah.
And
That's
Lord,
cool.
I'm so sorry. Like that.
Yeah.
I do not want to make those mistakes. And I have a moment with him. And his forgiveness is steadfast. He's faithful. He's so good. And
but remember, it's the difference with shame is it's that identity based voice, those little, Brene Brown calls them gremlins, that whisper, "You're not good enough," or
Yeah.
Or what will they think if they know this? So even aside from parenting, maybe, whether you're watching porn or, you've forgotten to pay bills, or you have to declare bankruptcy. I mean, there's so many situations in life where shame tries to come in and tell you are less than who God says you are. And there are those voices that say, nobody can know about this. Oh my gosh, you better take this to the grave.
Yeah.
So it's important to recognize, and like Aaron's saying, the remedy is confession. It's openness, it's sharing, it's vulnerability, this is what I'm, growing through and processing. And then the importance of allowing the Lord or your spouse or a friend who you're, divulging your secrets with to remind you who you are. No, that wasn't you. That was a bad choice, sure. Or that was a moment of hunger, right? Or that was a moment of, you experienced these emotions and you blew up for this reason or whatever, but that's not you. This is who you are. This is the father you are, or the husband you are. And so there's that importance of remedying shame by reminding people who they really are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious with the conversation of shame and let's just say, for example, there's like an offense between husband and wife, and you are trying to, the person that maybe did something wrong feels ashamed, feels bad about what they did, and but what they did caused offense to the other person, and it actually inflicted pain or harm or just emotional hurt to the other person.
Yeah.
Shame is there from the person that did the thing. But what kind of response, first of all, actually two questions, what kind of response does shame, does a person that is feeling shame, what kind of response do they need when they're ready to express or confess? And then how does the person who's been offended respond to a person that's feeling shame? What is I'm just curious, what is the process for that? Because
almost,
I can see both sides. I mean, just going back, personal examples of my wife and I is if I do something wrong, I feel bad about it. But what is is it possible for someone who's offended to, because I would say that shame needs grace. Shame needs, what you're saying, empathy. It needs to be seen. It needs to be heard. It needs to be understood. And, but how does someone who's been deeply offended express grace when they've been offended themselves? What is and is there a way to do that?
Right.
I guess that's kind of where I'm just curious about.
No, that's great. I think there's importance in both discussing what actually happened, what were your intentions versus what really happened, really talking through, brave communication, hey, when you did this, it made me feel that way, and I am now experiencing this. I mean, those brave, vulnerable conversations where you put it all out on the table, those can't happen when shame is still around, right? Because shame will make you want to say, oh, I can't be fully known. What will they think if they know this about me? What will my spouse think when I tell her what was really going on? And so I think there's importance, if you can recognize there's shame in you yourself, I think there's importance in you first settling that, telling that shame to back off, reminding yourself who God says you are, who you really are. And then, saying this is not going to define me. This bad choice I made does not declare who I am. And so then from that place of, having compassion on yourself and empathy and understanding within your own heart, you can then own your bad stuff. You can own the mess, and then you can then go and repair and make the relationship, just have that conversation, because you can take ownership for, man, I messed up here and there. That probably impacted you. How did that impact you? And giving room for your spouse to then share what really happened, and kind of dissecting that. The goal would be that it doesn't happen again. But that it requires a level of reflection and actually understanding what in the world happened. Because a lot of times, emotions come up and you say things you don't mean, and things happen that just, you have the nothing fights and whatnot. But there's importance in reflecting and really understanding, in hopes of preventing that from happening again, if that makes sense.
Something that a mentor of mine once said, he coins this term, you have to disarm the reactor, a nuclear reactor, you have to disarm it. You have to turn it off. And I think within the confines of this type of conversation, especially if there's an offense between a husband and a wife, I really love what you said. Like, if you can be aware of what is happening inside of you, if you are feeling shame, I think you have to lead with vulnerability. You just have to lead with that, lead with authenticity, and take that path and just confess, like, man, I'm kind of feeling shame right now.
Yeah.
I'm kind of feeling shame. I feel like that is actually a key, because that will disarm the reactor of the whole situation.
Yes.
When someone can just be authentic with how they're feeling. And maybe it's the same with the person that was offended. It's like, man, I'm really feeling offended, or I feel really hurt. Because that immediately opens up you in a position of vulnerability.
Yes.
And it disarms the other person from attack, or from, judgment, or from resistance.
Yeah.
Right.
For the spouse who is standing there and, their spouse comes up to them and saying, I'm really feeling shame about this. I can't help but think about how Jesus throughout the Gospels encountered so many people who were hurt and felt so much shame about what they've done or the disease or illness they were carrying. And he didn't stand back with his arms crossed and say, tell me more about that. He got in close.
That's good.
Yeah.
He got personal.
It's true.
He got down to their level. And that's something that Natalie and I have really tried to practice. Like, if Natalie comes to me with shame, or I come to her with shame, the receiver is like, there's some kind of form of physical touch involved, like a hand on a shoulder, or she'll reach down and grab my hand and pull me in and be like, just whatever you need to say.
Yes.
Tell me.
Yes.
You just tell me what's on your heart. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to sound perfect. Just tell me what you're going through.
Yeah.
And there's just like, there's feedback. There's a deep sense of listening. I do want to make this point though, because, we have 2 kids, you and Meg have 5 kids, and it's like, there may not always be an opportunity for this level of connection.
No.
That's true.
It's like,
Happens at 11 at night.
I might be feeling shame and dinner's going and we're both in the kitchen and Natalie senses something's wrong and this conversation starts and Grant's pulling on my leg and Jade's saying, I'm
That's
hungry.
True.
It's like, we're looking
Sometimes
at each other like, okay, we can't have this conversation, but something does have to happen.
Yes.
A quick,
we can't stay here.
A quick,
True.
Are you good? How can I help you in this moment?
Yes.
But there's let's come back to this, right?
Yes.
And you have to come back to it.
Yes.
And I think even just, like in that moment too, it's like acknowledging that, you know what, this is okay.
Yeah.
Even though it feels uncomfortable, if you feel the discomfort, it feels awkward, it feels like, man, we are not ourselves.
Right.
I think just like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yes.
We can get through this. We can talk about it later.
Yeah.
We can still be here. We can, if it's possible, which isn't easy, to categorize and
sure.
compartmentalize your emotions and thoughts like that sometimes, but.
And this is, I think, why it's so important. I think it gets easier and easier as time goes by. The more you, as a family, talk about the word shame, and the more you don't tolerate it, I think the less likely the less often it lingers a bit. You start to recognize it a little sooner. You start to, you have this culture of, oh, shame. Oh, honey, go take care of that. That is not you. That's not for you. That's not for this house.
Yeah.
And I just want to pivot real quick and talk about shame with our kids just for a minute, because I think it's really important that.
True.
But first, you have to recognize what it is in you in order to be able to teach it to your kids, right? And we've been just starting to introduce this topic to Grant. He's 4 years old, about 4.5. And we had this incident maybe, 6 months ago or so, where Grant had broken a toy. I remember in particular, he broke a toy. He was in his room, and I remember knocking on the door saying, "What's up, buddy? Like, how are you doing?" And he immediately hid the toy. And I saw that, it wasn't so fast. I saw that he hid something from me. And so I got down on my knees and I said, "Buddy, what's going on? Talk to me. I can help you with anything, right? You can bring me all your challenges." And he looks at me and pulls out the toy and said, "I broke it." I said, "Oh, buddy," I said, "did you mean to break it?" And he's like, "Yeah, he totally meant to make a bad choice and break something." And I said, "Oh, why did you think you had to hide it from me?" And he thought I didn't want you to get mad. And I said, "Oh, I know what that is." He goes, "What?" I said, "That's the voice of shame." And he's like, "Huh?" Shame, what's that? And so I started introducing this topic. Shame makes you want to hide from me. Shame makes you want to hide things from me. And so it was awesome. He was like, oh, and I said, you don't ever have to hide anything. We don't hide things in our family.
Yeah,
and so I said, let's have a redo. I told you, us Britons have redos all the time.
Yes.
So I said, I'm going to go out and I'm going to come back in. And instead of you hiding this toy, I want you to show me what happens. And so I go out the door. I give him a minute. I come back in. I'm like, what's up, Grant? How you doing? And he goes, Mama, look, I broke my toy. I need your help.
Wow. Awesome.
And so we're just acting it out.
That's amazing.
We're trying to act out the response we want them to have, right?
The
So bring it to me. Bring me the things. Don't hide in shame.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, buddy, like I went overboard. Let's fix it. Oh, let's get the tools and maybe daddy can help. And we just went above and beyond to try to outdo shame and the voice of shame in the home. And so there have been times since, where Grant will want to hide and I'll say, oh, is it shame again? And he'll say, yeah, it's shame. And I say, oh, you tell that shame to go away. And so I'm sure as you listen, you might have kids that are older and introducing the topic might not look like how I've had to introduce it recently, but there is an importance in recognizing the word in the home, having the word come up often as something you don't tolerate, and showing and giving your kids the tools to come out of it when they're feeling it. Yeah. And I think they need, as they grow in emotional awareness and maturity, they need us to help point out when they're feeling a certain way and what the proper response is, or at least what we want it to be for them, so that they can live more wholeheartedly.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. That's so good. Something I was just thinking of too, as you were saying that, when I was I had some coaching a while back, and something that they would always talk about is like, when you make a commitment and you don't do it, they call that a broken commitment. Oh. And what they would do is they actually celebrate broken commitments. And they do that because of basically what you guys just did with Grant. It's like
debunk shame.
You're celebrating the fact that you were honest, and that it's okay to not be perfect. And I just thought it just reminded me of that.
So good. Wow.
The other thing I wanted to hit on too is like something that I struggle with. I've struggled for a long time is projecting shame, especially onto my kids and my spouse. And I've had to like really learn how to backtrack and go and ask for forgiveness to my kids. Even when it wasn't really like a big deal, but it was like, because I've noticed myself expressing shame or projecting shame by way of just passive aggressiveness, not being clear about something I want to see or I need, or something that maybe they did that kind of frustrated me. Right. And it's something that I've dealt with, that I kind of received growing up, and have seen how I've now turned the tables in a sense, and I'm trying to push that out. But it's something that we got to watch out for.
Yes.
Is like being that,
That's a great point.
Having that passive aggressive voice or tone, or,
demeaning,
kind of demeaning, where it's not really a valuable thing to say. It's more like, it's not directly offensive.
Right.
But that almost makes it worse.
You're implying something.
Yeah. And then what that does though, is it causes the other person to stew on what are they really thinking. And then that, like where you're saying, that is like the silence. Shame comes in silence and secrets, and they have that thought, that inner judgment. So something that we got to watch out for too is passive aggressiveness. But
absolutely. And all that is just an inferior tool. Right.
Yes.
And so you've got to think and like dissect, why am I using this tool? When do I use it? Is it when I'm tired, I'm hungry, or I'm trying to control, because nobody's listening to me and all I have is passive aggression, And so trying to recognize what's causing you to use that tool, and then what the better tool is, whether it actually works as quickly as passive aggressive might feel like it works or not. Speaking identity and coming at it with healthy tools will do that. Awesome, you guys. Well, this is a fascinating talk. It's important for you and your family and in your marriage to know that shame does not get to dictate who you are, the culture of your home. We just ain't nobody got time for that.
No, it's true.
Right. So thank you for joining us in the Showing Up section today, and we're excited to see you next time.
See you.